Hello, Mary.
Hello, Danny.
I see we are recording with an AI companion. I don't know. I'm not quite sure where all this is going, this AI stuff. I think some of it's good and some of it, I don't know. Did you ask for an AI companion right now?
No, this is on your screen. I don't know anything about this. And I don't know what AI companion means. There's a little button I can push it and see. Request access for AI companion.
Well, do it.
Okay, hold on. I have to ask the host, it says your AI companion cannot ask questions about this meeting. Okay, so I have to ask you.
Oh.
I asked the host.
Okay, start AI. Oh my God, what are we getting into?
The screen changed.
It did.
This
meeting is being transcribed. All right.
So now we're going to have all the crawlers on our video. So we better say some really important things. This might be out into the future.
I guess, is this all being recorded?
Yeah, I think so. Did you hit record?
I did. I don't know. Maybe we should cancel this and because
We can roll. I think what the AI companion is that I can ask questions and no other participant can see the conversation I'm asking AI.
Ask a question. Ask a question.
Okay, well, what question?
What is the burning question that Mary has today?
I'm going to ask a question I already know the answer to and see what AI has to say.
That's not a real question. That's a statement. Okay.
Okay, so it's going to only answer questions about the things that we've already spoke about. Yeah, so I said, how do we create effective change? And it said, based on the meeting, there's no effective discussion that's been created between Danny and Mary discussing.
There is no change. You are stuck in a loop.
So basically, this is good though. This is good because AI companion is saying, look, guys, you have to start the conversation. You have to be the ones to tell us how to create this change. And then I can take that context and I can bring up highlights for you, is what AI is saying.
Awesome. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this because I don't know how it's going to show up on the recording, but it's pretty cool. Oh, I don't know what I just did. Hang on. Oh, maybe I'll just do that. And it's just off to the side. Maybe I can restart it again. We'll see. Oh my gosh. So effective change. How do we create effective change? I have a magic spell that I could do. Will that work?
Danny?
Yes.
Yes, share that spell with me. I want to know what that spell is.
That spell, oh, it's abracadabra. It's simple. It's simple.
Do you have a wand?
No, that's it. Just abracadabra. And I used to, when I was wiser and had more of a memory, I could remember, but abracadabra is the word that is just magic. It means something. Oh, now I got to look it up. Hang on. Can I pause this? Oh, Danny, what's the matter with you? Hang on. I'm looking it up. Abracadabra. Abracadabra meaning.
Are you using AI right now?
No, it is. Okay. It's just Google. It's a magical charm to cure fevers. But here's what it means. I create as I speak.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of cool. I create as I speak.
Which is exactly what our AI companion just said. You are creating this conversation as you speak it.
Yes.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. And I mean, I always think about being mindful of what I say, because that vibrates into reality. And so sometimes, I go, why is the world why is my little sphere, not flowing as easily as I want it? Damn it. As I put that exclamation point on it, and I go, well, maybe it's because you're cussing all the time. Maybe you should stop doing that and let things flow in a little more magical way.
Words are so incredibly powerful. Like that, when wanting to create any sort of effective change, one of the big things that I always say is that you don't really create what you want, you create what you are.
You
Because
create what you are.
you create what you are. It has to do with your vibratory level on the inside. So if I'm vibrating light, if I'm vibrating love, if I'm vibrating positivity, these are the things I'm going to start noticing and seeing in my everyday life, and that's what I'm creating.
Mm-hmm.
So that does go to speak with the word as well, because I'm going to speak what I think, and I'm going to speak what I feel, and I'm going to speak what I am on the inside, and then that makes more change on the outside. But it also has to do with like empty affirmations, because sometimes people try to be really careful about what they speak, or they try to be mindful about what they speak, but they don't actually believe the positive things that they're speaking. Like they can almost say it as if it's an empty shell, or say it sarcastically.
Well, I
So
would never do that, by the way, just to let you know. Say anything sarcastically.
damn it.
Yeah. So that brings it back to, like, in the morning. I wake up and I have a section of trees in my backyard that are my companions, and I have my 4 directions set up. And so, I just thank and pray and meditate down there. And sometimes it becomes rote. And I'm really mindful that when I go, you're just saying the words, you don't even mean them anymore. And I go, oh, okay, I gotta switch this up. Although it's still the same kind of wheel. I still do the same wheel, but I just add, a little extra sauce to it, a little extra meaning, even though it's the same words, basically. So the affirmations that we say that are hollow, that are empty, I still think that they have value, because it'll still, at least you're trying to get out of the damn it phase and into a more a positive and I forgot the word. Have I told you how early it is today?
I'm sorry, Danny. It's so early where you are.
I've been whining to Mary a lot. It's really early here. It's way before my camera time. Anyway, so I'm at a loss for words sometimes, but it is important, even if we get stuck. For me, just to say an empty affirmation, and then maybe it'll germinate into something that is more full.
What you're actually talking about that I love is turning an affirmation into a ceremony. And that has huge power. That's the same thing as chanting or as prayer. Like, for instance, what you're trying to do with your opening a sacred space or praying to protection, that's a ceremony that has a lot of power. And so even though you're saying the same words, they have a lot of meaning and power behind them. So you're trying to be more intentional when you say them.
Yeah.
eventually. But think of this also, praying the rosary. Do you know how many times I have to say, Hail Mary, full of grace, in one rosary sitting? Like,
A lot.
it's a lot, right?
Is it 108? And I'm asking that because the Buddhist thing,
The mala. Mm-hmm.
see, I don't know what that is. My brother does. But doesn't that have 108 beads?
I'm not sure. The mala has 108 beads. Yes,
Okay.
it does.
Okay.
So you say the same chant or affirmation
Yes.
108
Yes.
times. Absolutely. And so that in itself becomes a ceremony to change your energy. So even though you might start saying each one intentionally, the repetition of it allows
Yes.
your mind to like switch into your subconscious so that your energy can actually connect in and do other things that you're not aware of simply through that mindfulness meditation, if you will.
Right. Right. And it drops you into a trance state.
Yeah.
Right. So for that, there is a lot of value. My morning session is not a repetition of 108 things. It's kind of short because I go, I need to go get coffee and I need to drink some water. And I mean, because it's the very first thing that I do. I'm just trying to set the day to put it in the right place and the right perspective. But yeah, that rosary thing. And getting back to ceremony, for me, dropping into setting up for ceremony, doing the ceremony, whatever that is. If you have a bowl that you're going to lay some sage on, some gifts on, corn, a couple of pennies, or these days, a couple of $100,000, because it's just so. Anyway, that's all important, and it really focuses the energy so strong. So I'm huge on ceremony. I think it's so powerful.
I'm taking notes.
Mm. And remember, it's really early, so I have no idea what I'm talking about.
That's why I'm taking notes. I'll repeat it back to you eventually. I'll be like, do you know that
You know what you said? I better
well,
be.
all of this kind of started with the question, how do we make effective change?
Mm-hmm.
And just so far, only a few minutes into this, we've decided that to begin is through methods of ceremony. You can make personal transformation and also focusing. You used the word focus. There's focusing on an intention, which I think is important because if we're hit with what is wrong with the world, right? We can see darkness, we can see heaviness, we can see suffering, we can see the things that we don't like about the world. Do we focus on that? And if we do focus on that, does that change that or does that spread that?
Mm.
And what do we need to focus on instead in order to transform that, to make that transformation?
Yeah. So some people would say you're a dreamer if you don't focus on the reality of the S show, just the horrible. We got to pay attention to it. But what I heard you say is that if we continue to focus on that without a clear intention of creating change, then we are creating more of that. Is that what you're saying?
So, for instance, if you are, just because you brought up a cow before we started recording, I'm going to use the example of a cow, right? So, what if you're confronted with this cow, right? And this cow Danny, listen, this cow very badly needs to be milked, right? This cow is starting to run a fever, right? And you're just so focused on the injustice of this cow and why has the farmer not milked this cow instead of focusing on can I milk this cow? Can I find someone else who can milk this cow? How can I help this cow in the future? Does this cow need to go to a different farm? Like, there's change that needs to happen that you can focus on versus on just the pain, suffering, injustice, and darkness of what the cow is actually going through. That's a beautiful thing that empaths do, and it helps to pull and transmute the energy of the suffering.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't change the suffering.
Right.
So if we want to make effective change, not just transmute the energy of the suffering, there has to be a different focus. Still dreaming?
I'm still thinking about, how do you know a cow has a fever? And why? And how many times have you milked a cow?
Maybe I equated myself to a cow. I've breastfed a lot of babies, okay? I have 3 babies. And I'm telling you, if you go too long without, I don't want to say being milked, but if you go too long, you will develop a fever and get sick.
Uh, uh, exactly. Okay, so, but you're not equating yourself with a cow, are you?
I'm not equating myself with a cow.
Okay.
But I assumed that if they didn't get milked, that they would run a fever just like a human would.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that interlude. That oh my God. So I'm seeing you walking on a field, coming up to a cow, and so not and it was just such a great image. And I took it. I had to go. I had to go there because I just did.
Of course, I'd expect nothing less.
But that's so true that we can, as empaths, we can tap into that discomfort, that feeling, that sickness. Ooh, and here it takes me to another place. And as empaths, as we feel that, we bring some of that into us. And if we bring so much of that into us, then we're going to, why am I going here, Danny? We're going to need to be milked because we're going to have a fever. We're going to get sick. So I think it's important that we maintain an equilibrium when, as an empathic energy, that we don't take too much of the negativity on, that we transmute that negativity by moving the negative or the sickness to another farm, to another farmer, knocking on the farmer's door. Hey, now I wouldn't recommend that, telling a farmer what they should do to their livestock. However, that could take us down a whole nother rabbit hole too. What's our responsibility for someone who owns another live creature that we think that they're not managing correctly? That gets off into the weeds.
I kind of like weeds. They're very beautiful. The lions are beautiful. But like the empathic thing, it's a beautiful thing that we are all able to do, because that does help temporarily ease suffering, or like at least ease emotional suffering. Like if you petted the cow and spoke gently, it's okay, my mama, get you some help, like, oh, it's all right. That might ease her pain for a while, but it doesn't create effective change. It's going to
Yeah.
keep getting worse and worse and worse. So, and there's like so many different ways to do this depending on what we're applying this story to and what's going on. Even if it's just how can I donate, or get other people to donate enough money to hire a milkmaid for this cow, or to give to the farmer. Maybe the farmer is broke right now and is going through tough times, and or maybe the cow is just lost and just managed to find its way back here, and now we're returning it. You know, there's so many different ways to do that. And if we're going to answer your question on a physical level, if I knocked on the farmer's door in a do not stand your ground state and told the farmer what—
do not stand your ground state. Oh my gosh.
Well, because farmers always, you know, they have—
You got to be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and that's why I was saying you don't want to go up to a farmer and start telling him how to run his business, especially because I didn't even think of this because I'm in California. Stand your ground state. I mean, if I was back in Missouri, no, I don't tell anybody how to manage their livestock unless we're having a conversation about that situation. But I would never go, hey, your cow has a fever.
Your cow looks like it needs to be milked.
It needs to be milked, Mr. Farm. No, but anyway, and then there's variations of that too, because it could be really injured. But okay, so get back to knocking on somebody's door when you're not in a hold your ground state.
Look, I think this is where my rebel tapped in early. Okay, the rebel Mary side tapped in pretty early because I grew up in the South. Like the South. You know, I was born in Florida, but I had a grandparent in Arkansas, a grandparent in Alabama, family in Texas, and they were farmers. They had lands, they had animals, things like that. But my granddad, from where he didn't kill anything. That was against his personal ethics. I had an uncle. We got all of our meat from Unc. And Grandpa, he did the plants. Any animals that were bothering him, he would trap. We'd send them somewhere else, to a different area, to different woods. But from a very young age, that was one thing he always told me. Do not go on someone else's property. You know where my property ends. Do not step foot over there because you will not come back. He made that very clear. And even when I was an adult, I had some land for a little while. And if I heard shooting on my property, first thing I was doing was grabbing my gun and going out because someone's on my property doing something they shouldn't be doing. And then other way around, I accidentally went chasing a pack of coyotes in the middle of the night and landed up on somebody else's property. And I was scared for my life because it was also dark. So we're hopping behind trees and rolling over hills so that nobody sees us. We can get out. But this is the rebel part, right? So I'm not saying you guys should do this by any means. And maybe I'm rambling at this point, but there is zero parts of me that feels that if somebody was suffering under somebody else's hand and authorities couldn't do anything about it or wouldn't do anything about it, if it was within my ability to arrange to sneak in the dead of night and save whatever could be saved, I would absolutely do it.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. But if it's just a fever, I wouldn't go steal a cow.
Well, we talk to the farmer first. And then maybe call the farming authorities.
Yeah, and maybe it's you know that fever, if you did something right away, that you would save that cow's life because it could be too late. I mean, there are instances where I've been involved in doing some similar things, and there's a huge question that goes on afterwards. Was that the right thing? Did I do the right thing? All that. And that brings me back to we can only do what we can do in the moment with the tools that we have, with the knowledge that we have. Yeah. And so we will all make mistakes. And this goes back to effective change. We will all make mistakes in what we are trying to change, but that we're just doing the best we can. If we have, getting back to the intention, and paying attention to the intention of what we want and making sure it's clear and positive, and for me, it's of unity consciousness, then whatever mistake, if that is even a word that we should use, or what other people say we should have done, or it doesn't matter, because we were doing the best that we could with the tools that we have at that time.
Absolutely. I think there's two ways around this, and one kind of goes back to personal transformation. Because if this isn't something that's life or death right in front of us within our hands and capability to take care of, then what we have to be able to do is figure out how we can shine a light and how we can just bring awareness and love and positivity to whatever's happening. How can we change? How can we change this narrative? How can we fight for good rather than fighting evil? It's the same thing. It's the same war, but with a different mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other is, if it is a hands-on thing, do I have the spiritual authority to push forward and overcome fear and actually do something about it? If there's something bad happening in my front yard, am I brave enough to go out and stand up for the right thing? For instance, and then we're going to get completely off of farm analogies, okay? We're going to take a really wide step away from
Can we grab some apples before we go off the tree?
So my neighbor at the time, who I said, I just knew I'd be shot if I happened to be in his yard. So I was really scared when I accidentally ended up on his property. There was a time when I happened to see that he had a mini horse that kept getting out of the gate and hurting itself because he had barbed wire out there. And I'd decided I'd had enough. I was going to go talk to this man, even though everyone on the street advised me against it because he was an ornery old man and people had gone missing on his property before. And I go up to his house and I'd really mustered myself up, and he didn't even have front steps. This is how unnice he was. Like, he was so unwelcoming, he tore down his front steps. You had to climb to get onto his front porch, right? I am not lying. So
It's so unwelcoming. He took off his steps. Wow. Okay. Okay.
So I climbed on his front porch. I knocked on the door.
And how old were you?
At the time, 26, 27.
Ooh. All right.
Yeah. Right. I knocked on the door a few times. He didn't come, but he had cameras everywhere. So I talked to one of his cameras and I told him how I felt. And then I left very hurriedly. How about that man showed up the very next week with a chicken in a cage, pulled right up to my front door, and he said that he liked me so much that he brought me his prized cock. And he gave it to me as a gift. And apparently, we don't have to get into it, whatever, PETA, but this was his most prized rooster. And he gave it to me, and then eventually I talked him into letting me keep his mini horse in my pasture and that he would pay for the feed. So then we had a solved problem, and we were mending fences instead of having hard borders. And all it took was a little bit of spiritual authority and bravery, and also acknowledging that that was unsafe. So I don't recommend it, but I did hurriedly get out of there when I had the opportunity.
So it was courage, spiritual authority. What else?
I don't know what I said. Now I'm
craziness. So spiritual authority. Let's talk about that. What does that mean? Spiritual authority, because I think we all have it if we choose to acknowledge it. But what does that mean? As long as we have this spiritual authority, does it come from somewhere else that gives us the authority to do this? That's an interesting term to me.
That is an interesting term that I don't know that I've even used before. It's, when I think of spiritual authority, it's not something I feel coming from outside of me. It's something that I feel rising up within me when it's time to do something about something. And you know that what you're going to do is step on toes. It might make people feel like you're crossing boundaries, that you're overstepping, you're not staying in your place, but you know it needs to be done and nobody else is going to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
In alignment with your spiritual path. A spiritual authority, not an entitlement.
Yeah, because it seems like that can go down a path that is, it has to be in alignment with well, to me, that spiritual authority would have to be in alignment with the law of one, with unity consciousness, with everything is connected. And so if it is not in alignment with that, then it can be, as you said, an entitlement. And it gets down the wrong road.
Right. Well, as you see, I went to his front door first, spoke to his cameras. Front door. Front door. Here I am. This is what I think. Something needs to change, right? And sometimes we come to this with other people as well, like maybe as empaths or readers, we can tell that somebody's going through something hard and we receive that message because maybe we feel like there's something we need to do about it.
Yeah.
But we can ask the person first, if we have the ability to, so that it's not stepping on toes, so that we are getting permission, and then let your courage rise up. Let your spiritual authority align and rise up so that you can take care of that problem with or for that person.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah. Makes sense. Because we always there's things that are in my current awareness that keep showing up today, this last week or whatever, and it's all about asking permission to step in. And it's not like that concept isn't new to me, but it's showing up a lot in this last week for me. Have you asked permission to step into this energy? And so I'm like, okay, well, I'll ask now. But, it's weird that that's popping into my head now. I'm going, well, do I not have permission? Or is it just that I'm being reminded to? Because sometimes I feel that I set up the permission in the morning and I ask for permission to step into space in the morning, and then I don't need to do it during the day. And I'm hearing this last week, just keep asking permission. It's all good. You're not hurting anybody. It's not distracting. It's just a good thing. And so when we tap into, when we do a reading, of course, we always, for me anyway, except if it's politics, because if it's politics, for me, it feels like it's, the permission is given because they're in the public arena, but I still question that a little bit, which is why it's so important to have your protections up, especially in reading politics and some of this dark energy that comes out, which I don't really get into the darkness that much, the dark politics. But asking permission when we're doing these readings, when we're doing, one of the things you wanted to talk about in the beginning was mediumship. You had that word written down. We both had magic. We both had the magician. We both talked about change, and you said mediumship when we're figuring out what we're talking about. And when we tap into discarnate spirit, we need to ask for permission for them to step close, for them to be available. Otherwise, they won't be around, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. There's something interesting about permission also, that aside from autonomy and asking permission, it allows people to have free will and autonomy while also reminding you of your humbleness. And I think what that really allows us to do is to take a second and discern, is this my job or not?
Mm-hmm.
Am I supposed to step in and do this? Am I supposed to, because there's a lot there that is happening that has nothing to do with us. And we're very self-centered creatures because we are ourselves. That's where we're seeing it. Okay, I see this. Maybe I should go rescue that. Maybe I should save this. Maybe I should be the one to do this. And having that that ask, it gives us a moment to think first.
Yeah.
Do they want me to do this? Am I even supposed to do this? Is
Yeah.
this their karmic path in their journey?
Right. And that is so important today, it feels like, because when you go to your neighbor's front door and you climb up on the porch, right, is that your job to do that? Or so I'm sure you went through that a lot. You didn't ask for permission to go onto his land, his porch, but you did, and I'm not sure how you phrased it, but in a way, ask for permission for him to look at the situation he's causing with the little mini horse. But I'm sorry, I'm off somewhere else. But that was a big squirrel moment. But what you said about permission, and is this something that I should be concerned about, is huge, because often we take things on that we shouldn't be taking on at all. It's not ours. It has nothing to do with us. So we see a lot of that. We just need to focus on what we can do and what change we can make, and maybe it's just helping somebody out in our neighborhood, in our sphere, and that's all we can do. I mean, it doesn't have to, and that little thing that we do could be huge down the road, and we don't even see it. Mm-hmm. We don't even see the change or the help that we offered. We think that it was nothing to us. Yeah.
But it makes very big ripples.
Big ripples.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 100% agree. So a lot of this magic so far has to do with focus, courage, and discernment.
See, that's why you are so good at your teachings and your classes, because you bring things from squirrel moment back on track, so that it keeps it in a focused, actionable way. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Danny.
So you have notes. So what was that? Say those notes again, because I was just like going, dang, she's good at like keeping things on track. So what were the 3 things you just said again for people who have gray hair and can't remember?
To people who can't remember, even without gray hair, magic, what we're looking at is really the transformation. And so far, we've touched on magic steps being focus, courage, and discernment. And that seems to be about what magic is. Now,
Magic. I like the so you were going to say something. Go ahead.
no, because it's probably going to pull us a different way with where I was going.
I was going to tap into courage.
Go ahead.
And this will be very brief. So, and I did take a note, so I can come back to it. But if you're just a magician on stage, okay, well, number one, that takes a lot of courage to stand on stage and to be in front of people, and they're all looking at you, and they're looking at your hands and trying to figure out what's he trying to, how's he doing this? And, but when we're talking about change, the courage to let something go that you think is important to your essence, and it's not, but you don't want to let it go. Does that make sense?
Preach.
What?
I said preach.
Preach.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't want to preach.
You already did. Too late. You already did it. You done did. Letting something go that you think is part of who you are. That's so important. And this is something akin.
Okay, now you're going to get ready to go preaching. Mary's going to start preaching. Here we go. Woohoo!
This is something akin to ego death.
Ego death?
Yeah, that's what you're talking about here. Because we go through things, and as we grow and as we get older through life, we take on these experiences, and we take on how we've had to be because our families, or just how we've had to be in general, and we build and build and build and build an identity around ourselves, an essence of who we are and how we operate and why we are the way that we are, until why we are the way that we are is keeping us blocked, keeping us from moving forward, keeping us from making effective change, keeping us scared, keeping us unfocused, keeping us scattered. And then we have that ability to find what that essence is, what that part of us is, what that negative habit or self-talk or whatever it is that's there. And then do you have the courage to let that part drop away, which might feel like an identity crisis. It might feel like an ego death. It might feel like, well, who am I without that? Or I'm too afraid to not be that anymore, because then who will I be? And
I'll just be a shell of who I was, because that was so big and part of me. So if I let that go, then you've got to fill it with something else. Brings back the intention, brings back the magic to affect change.
because that's what we are. We're just magic. And all of those things are like things that we've built to contain our magic in different ways.
I like that.
But we're afraid of who said this? Was it Carl Jung? Is he the one who said that? That we don't actually fear our own death. What we fear is our power.
No, I said that.
Oh yeah, you're such a wise man.
I said that.
Wow, you're the wisest man. You're so wise.
So say what I said again, because it needs to be repeated.
Well, people think that what they fear is darkness, that they fear death, fear, you know, but what I think it was Jung said was that what we really fear deep inside is our own power. We fear how big we could be. We fear our own light. We fear our own magic.
Oh yeah. 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 That guy's wise.
You are. But how do we make effective change if you're afraid of the magic that you are and you're keeping yourself safe?
Exactly. Yes.
So I pulled a card.
Now you're making me think. Okay, what are you afraid of, Danny?
What are you afraid of, Danny?
I'm not saying.
I can tell you what I'm afraid of, but it goes hand in hand with this card, kind of.
Oh, you're pulling cards now?
I pulled one earlier around the time that you were talking about magic and I had magic written down. And I was like, and then you said, what are the tools of magic? And I said mediumship. And all this was before we were recording, guys, so you didn't miss anything. But
you missed a lot.
They missed a lot before we started recording because at some point Danny was like, should we press record?
I'm always thinking that as soon as we connect and get on Zoom, that I should push record, because there's so much good stuff backstage that happens. There really is, you know, it's just catching up and this and that. But anyway, I think I'm going to start doing that. You can always, it could be at the pre-show and then here's the show and then whatever. Anyway, go ahead.
I like that. What about an encore?
We could do an encore too.
If you have a pre-show and a show, you need an encore.
Encore. Okay, so back to what you were saying.
The card I pulled is called the Ghost Dance. The Ghost Dance. And at the time that I pulled this card, I kind of tapped in and I was feeling this earthiness at the same time as this cloudiness. It felt like there was something rising up out of the earth and there was a mist and a cloud all around me and I could feel it coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people have felt that recently, that something's different. But what really came to me about this is that one way we can have personal transformation in order to create effective change is by bringing oneness from us to the ancestors. That is the ghost dance. The ghost dance is the ghosts coming up and us dancing with them and realizing their power, their importance, their lessons. These could be our ancestors and the paths and journeys they've had. These could be our own personal past and how we transmute that and turn that into personal lessons, like our shadow work, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's something so important about guidance, spirits in that particular way. So mediumship started coming up, but it's just becoming one, alchemizing the wisdom and the lessons and the personal journey of all those who have walked before us. Because nothing we're going through is new. It's all happened before. And how are we listening in for those ghosts? How are they informing us in a good way for positive change?
So I was listening to a podcast. So one of my favorite decks is the Galactic Heritage deck. And Lisa Royal Holt, who was the channel for this deck, she was talking about, which is, I think, for me, very interesting, galactic shamanism.
Mm.
And in that, when you're talking about ghost dances, all of the dances from our ancestors, and it's interesting because the card that I use for magician came from ancestral paths.
Mm.
So, it's all these little synchronicities that let us know either we're on the right path or whatever. But when I was thinking about this galactic shamanism, and what she was saying about this was that our ancestors, our path that we are on, is going from unity consciousness, source energy, all is one, what we do is part of the whole, to a separation, to experience contrast, individuality. And that path is for us to learn the lessons of how to get back to unity consciousness. And so she was talking about the rise in when we are so separated from the whole energy, that is when we need more spirituality to remind us that we are all interconnected, that plants, trees, earth, sky is all part of the whole. And when we get back into that again, then that is the journey. And that is what we're learning from our ancestral ghost dance, but it takes it into a galactic ghost dance as well. That, we can't forget that when you said there's, we've done this before, there's galactic civilizations that have done and lived this path that we're on now, and that we can learn from to get back to just respect for all beings.
Mm.
And that's a whole nother that's what I was playing with last week when I was out in Kings Canyon, out in the with no people. just me and a drum. Yeah. Cool.
Love that.
Yeah. Did I rant? I didn't mean to rant, but
Is rant bad?
I don't know.
I think rant drives home a message that needs to be spoken. I call that channeling.
Okay. It's but that has just been in my awareness, and it's like it's not letting me go. It's like, gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
I gotcha. And that's another thing that empaths and this spirit and letting go and magic change. Sometimes when you drop your defenses, when you drop that piece that you think is really important, and you have good intentions of what you want, sometimes an ancestor will come up and grab you and goes, gotcha. And you go, uh-oh, on a new path. Uh-oh, it's an old path, but you're on it.
And sometimes that leads us into pilgrimages, vision quests, or just going back to ancestral homes and spaces that we used to play as children, or where our ancestors grew up. And that connects us to those spaces, to the gifts that have been passed on from generation to generation.
Yeah.
I kind of grew up, I felt fairly disconnected from my family because they lived in other states so far away that I could only see them, during summers and things like that. And my mom passed when I was young. So it felt like I didn't know that much about my family. But there comes a time, like you said, where you have your karmic journey of autonomy and learning who you are and who you want to be. And then things always bring you right back around when you're in the mature state, bring you back around to the oneness, to the ancestors, to all of that kind of stuff. So now we're going on a drive across the US this summer to visit and hit all of my ancestral mountains and where my ancestors grew up and visit, what are they called? Gravestones. We're going to do all kinds of fun
Ooh,
ancestor things, and it's going to be great. And I'm going to absorb that energy because all of their power is now my power because I'm the one living. They don't need it. They had their life journey and they learned and they grew wisdom and then lessons and they had their autonomy and their personal power, and then they pass and they don't need that. They left that here for me.
yes.
For me. So I just get to take that on. And then as I take it on, that gives my children permission to take it on because now they have something to take on too. And there's something about the choosing of that, the wearing of that, the authority in that, that not only gives people permission to be rescued or saved or helped, but gives people permission to be empowered, to take on what's there
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what's theirs by right.
Your kids, you mentioned them twice. You have 3 kids.
Mm.
And you're sharing all this spiritual woo-woo stuff with them. They are going to be the change. And we'll just leave it like that. That is, I only had this much of it when I was a kid. My mom said to me, "Oh yeah, your grandfather would never do anything without consulting astrology." That's all. That was pretty much it. Space, my dad goes, "Yeah, I've seen spaceships in World War II when he was flying." He goes, "Yeah, there was one right next to my window in the airplane." And I go, "Okay, any more?" That was it. So I get 2 pieces of little woo-woo that's like this big. But there are kids that are getting full on. And these days, it's huge. It's so powerful for the evolution of the planet, of this species that we call ourselves.
I think that the generations are beginning to change. We have generations of elders who have had spiritual awakenings and are going through healing and things like that. But if you start paying attention, people are getting younger and younger and younger coming into their spiritual awakening. And it's because these new people coming in, they're the rainbow kids. They're the magic, right? They're the interdimensional beings here to run rampant and change some things, to mess some stuff up, right? So bringing spiritual awareness and positive change and empowerment to those capable of grasping it as young as possible is super important. Keeping in mind their karmic journey, because all kids are going to have to learn how they learn and choose how to believe when they're ready to believe it. You can't force spirituality down a child's throat as much any more than you can shove religion down a child's throat. Like they have to.
That doesn't work. Trust me. That it didn't work for me. But anyway.
Yeah, you have to just guide lovingly and in empowered ways. And when they show interest, take that time and see what makes them feel empowered, what makes them feel in alignment with love, what makes them feel safe.
Right.
And they'll just grow in it.
I'm excited. I'm excited for our future, even though as thick as it is right now. We are affecting magical change, and I love that. Anyway, we've been rambling for quite a while now.
How long is quite a while?
I don't know. My little clock says an hour and 20 minutes.
What? Okay, now you have to break that into 3 parts because there's a pre-show, there's a main show, and then there's the encore.
All right. Well, I'm going to push the record button again. So I hope I've recorded. Yes, I have. Thank you, everybody, Thank you, Mary. Always great talking with you. Takes me so deep. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, everybody. Thanks. Peace and love.